Good morning. It's
Good morning.
Thursday and time for Pivot Point Live. Welcome, Tracy. How you doing today?
I am doing wonderful today. Had a great early morning call today, and it's really pumped me up. And I'm excited always on Thursdays because I get to meet with my good friend, Paul Routhier. Someday we're going to have to tell the story behind your name.
Behind my name, the
French
story
people.
behind the name.
Yeah, there's a story behind my name, but I think my family tree has people hanging from it.
Oh, I think mine does too. I'm sure. The French fur traders were not nice people. So yeah. So it is Thursday. Some crazy stuff happening around, but we're going to talk about. I think you wanted to talk about today about scaling, and which comes down to inputs and outputs, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, talk to me. What exactly do you want to talk about from the scaling perspective?
So I think in my own business, I'm coming to this place right now where I scaled to this level, and I knew that level. I mean, like it wasn't giving me everything. Then I had to go to a new level, and that meant hiring people in and everything. But then I'm at this level currently where I'm anticipating. I'm super busy right now, and I think I'm busy in the things that fill me with energy and stuff like that. But the monetary is not like I'm never going to reach that goal doing this. So I've got to do something different. So I don't know, I'm not hitting my lid, but I'm going to get close. And so I need to raise that lid up higher. And I know that has something to do with scaling. And I heard something, I think it was either Timothy Ferriss or James Clear. They talked about to get a good deal in your business, you've got to delegate, eliminate, automate to liberate. So DEAL. So it's a great deal when you can delegate, eliminate, automate, or liberate. And I've always reflected back on that when you think about scaling, but that's the depth that I know. I mean, what am I doing that I can delegate? What am I doing that I shouldn't be doing that I can eliminate? What needs to be automated? And then I'll feel that liberation. So I'm just feeling a little bit I've been coaching a couple of, what I'm struggling with is usually what I find out what's happening in other people's business too. So I'm just thinking, let's roll with some scaling. And you said something recently on one of our shows about inputs and outcomes and outputs. And just that triggered a thought with me and you this morning and with the one who works behind the scene for us. And I just thought that would be a great thing to be talking about because it's uppermost in my mind for sure.
Yeah, I mean, inputs and outputs. So I always bring this back. I did a lot of work in my early career in the energy industry, and it kind of tied into business operations. And it was really wrapped around inputs in the energy industry, or BTUs, British thermal units, and outputs, BTUs, British thermal units. And the key to generating energy is being able to have the outputs, the BTUs, be way more than the inputs. So, and much like business, you have to have the input, your time, your money, create the outputs, which is revenue, right? So it's the same idea. With the least amount of inputs, you want to create the most amount of output. So if you think of this like a car engine, if you're thinking about your business like it's an engine, and instead of the exhaust being exhaust, it's actually revenue, right? And you want to get the most MPG out of that engine that you can. And you do some modifications to the engine every once in a while to get more output. So now you're gone from a street car to a dragster, right? You're gonna go from a 4-cylinder to a 6-cylinder to an 8-cylinder to a 10, and then get your Lamborghini out with the big 12, right? So you're changing as you grow your business. You're kind of modifying the engine to take, even in the car metaphor really works, because once you get to the Lamborghini, you're sucking a lot more gas, but your average puts out a lot more horsepower. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just a gas to cylinder. It's how efficient you burn that gas and how much horsepower you can get out. So right now you're at a 4-cylinder, right? You're running yourself. You've got your VW Beetle. You're kind of cruising along, and you roll up on this drag race, and you got your VW Beetle, and the guy's driving a Lamborghini, and you're trying to figure out that you do all the maintenance on your Volkswagen. You're changing the tires. You're changing the spark plugs and doing all that stuff. And he's got a team of 4 people running around his car, putting it together and checking all the parts and making sure that the output's going really hard. So the key to scaling is to understand, the first rule of scaling is to replicate yourself. So what does that mean? You've heard the old adage that, when you're a small business owner, you wear a lot of hats. I like that adage because actually, like, Tracy, you're wearing all the hats minus one,
Yeah.
right? You've got Gavin wearing one of the hats, which is your kind of your scheduling technology hat. But beyond that, you're just there. So you're coming to your ceiling as you put, what do you do next, right? So first thing you got to kind of do a skills assessment on yourself. Right? It's like, what am I good at? What do I enjoy doing? Right.
Right.
What don't I enjoy doing? What do I know how to do? And what do I want to know how to do? Right? You kind of put it all on the side, and that starts giving you an idea what you can move off of your plate, and then to identify resources to get those things done. Right. Whether if you're small and you're just starting at that scaling operation, we've come into a time where subcontracting is very heavy. You don't really think about hiring a full-time person to do any specific process until you get to the scale where you're going to need that service full-time. So you got to sit down and, like, second thing is, are your processes mapped out? Do you know exactly how you do everything that you do? Are they proven and repeatable, replicatable, right? Because if you bring on someone, you have to be able to tell them what and how to do what you need to get done. This is where most people just really struggle, because they haven't identified their processes, and then they go into this and they hire a subcontractor expecting some sort of magic that this person's going to come in and know how to do what you need done in your business and the way you do it. Now, if you're hiring to build a process and you want someone else's input, that makes sense. But if your expectation is that they know how you want it done and what that proven process is, and you haven't documented it, you're going to have a heck of a time training them into it. So it's, that first scaling point's really a pain point, because you run into things like founder's dilemma, right? You have, you don't trust everybody is going to do it like the 120% you put into it. And that's the first hurdle that most people get into. And then because they haven't documented processes and they don't have a clear training path for the subcontractor or even their first hire, then they get frustrated with that because it fails. And then they get confirmation bias that no one can do it like I do it. Right. So, there's some things that you have to wrestle with, like, okay, but if you think about it, when you're scaling, when you're starting to scale, I don't need someone to be 100%. I need 2 people to be 80%. And if I have 2 people that are 80% of my 100%, I'm getting 160%.
Right.
Okay. And we're talking now we're adding cylinders to the engine, right? That Volkswagen can only go 70 miles an hour, but you add 2 cylinders to it. Now you're up to 120, and you're starting to get economies of scale out of your gas that you're pumping into it based on the configuration of the engine. Same with the business, is based on the configuration of the business, you start reaching economies of scale and scaling the business.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, I'm gonna get off of my soapbox here for a second. I'm sorry.
No, I love it. So what I recognize in that is two keys to scaling is you got to replicate yourself, and there's a process going through that, and then you got to document your processes. Like what I mean, so if you're going to replicate yourself, bring somebody in, they need to know this is how you want things done. And you're right, most businesses that I've dealt with, and even in my own business, you just do it, right? Because you know how to do it. You've worked through it, but you've never taken the time to put this into a file, put this into a document to where you can teach somebody. You remain an unconscious competent. You're doing it and you're very effective at it, but to teach somebody else you don't know because you've never documented that thing. That's a big component.
And I'll add one thing to that, because you said something very interesting there. The competent, the subconscious competent.
Mm-hmm.
How do you really know it's the most effective way to do it?
Oh, beautiful.
Right. I mean, it's within the process of documentation that you actually look at what you're doing, and you have those aha moments going, oh, I could do this so much different, and it would be so much better and so much more efficient. That's an unintended benefit of documenting the process, because you actually get to step back and look at the process as a whole. And am I doing it in the most efficient way? Am I getting the MPG out of the engine that I could be getting? Oh no, I need more air coming into the carburetor, the injection system, so that I can burn the fuel more efficiently. You're going to find that out in the documentation process.
So so documenting the process, is there a secret to it? Is it just like, okay, let me think about like what is it that I do? Is there like a strategy for documenting your process?
I hear the biggest excuse I hear for documenting process is I don't have the time. So I'm going to give you a hack for the time.
All right.
There is that. You can document the process while doing the process. And it's pretty simple. Here's the hack. You open up Microsoft Word and turn on the microphone. And as you're doing the processes, you talk to the Microsoft Word, and it will fill out the document. Now it's going to be all squirrely, and you could take that whole thing and you copy it and you paste it into ChatGPT, and you give ChatGPT a prompt. This is the process for X. I need this documented like a process. Please generate. And guess what? That process is now documented, and pretty solidly too. This is from experience. Been documented. Yeah. Honestly, I've been working on a project documenting some process that's apropos, and I decided that this was the way I was going to do it. And what would usually take me 3 weeks to really have a good document process, for each process took me about an hour.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
And it's just a complete change from the old days. So to the I guess to the cheering for AI, this is where it really kind of kicks it for me, is getting some of this stuff in order as we're building teams, and it's been amazing. So that's a big hack that we could use for that.
Love that. And that, I think I've noticed here recently that there's a lot of my coaching clients that are struggling with that whole excuse. I would do it if I had the time. And then when you show them the right tool, because that's what you mentioned, that great statement you said, how do I know that this is the right way? It's the way I've been doing it, but how do I know there's not a better way? How do I know there's not and you've got to take the time to enter into that process, and probably have an accountability partner, somebody coaching you to to suggest the things that you may not be asking yourself, asking better questions Like, okay, if you can improve on that, what would you do? Why? I don't know. I don't have a tool. Like, oh, there's a tool for that. And you just like you shaved off 3 weeks of work for an hour. That's a huge benefit. One of the questions that was asked by one of our viewers is, how important is documentation in your organization?
In my organization, it's extremely important. We're in the middle of documenting some processes. We just opened up a new company about 4 weeks ago. And the first thing I did was mission, vision, values. And then, which also there's a employee indoctrination document that's there, which includes the mission, vision, values, employee behavior, communication. Here's the documented process for using Teams. Here's, so we're starting from scratch from a lot of this. And I work with companies all day long on doing this, so I damn well better do it myself. But we'll be in a position in 6 months, in a position, the target or exit strategy is an early exit. It's not an exit strategy. It's more of a strategy to merge with another company that I have targeted, to bring product and to bring product marketing and sales all together under one roof. And so I'm putting the processes together so that at that time we're more valuable. It's the process that's the value in the company. The process and the revenue are the value in the company.
So having the right process and having it documented, anyone, if they've been from the employee indoctrination standpoint of their behavior of, hey, this is the process, we've got it documented for you, just follow the process. The idea behind that, in theory, is the outcome or the output. I mean, we should get the same level of output because we followed the same process, no matter what quote unquote shift we're on, what day of the week it is. If we're all following the same process, we should end up at the same result.
Pretty much. So let me tell it this way. I'll tell a little story here.
Okay.
When I was in the Navy, everything in the Navy is documented. Number one, just to start, it's documented how you go to the bathroom. It's just everything is got a manual to it. When I went in the Navy, one of the first things that we had to do is what was it, 3 or 6 months? I can't remember. In the galley, right, on the ship. So we had to do galley duty. So the first thing, and Tracy, I came out of high school, 4 years of cooking. Cooking is like nothing. They identified that and they're like, okay, I got the skate job. I'll admit it. Wasn't on the galley for the regular sailors. I was in the chief's mess and I was the cook. Right. So yeah, it was skate duty. It was like, all I had to do was cook breakfast dinner and lunch and dinner for the chiefs. And there was only 12 of them. So I only had to, it was like easy peasy for me, but I went into training, they trained me for a day. And at every station in the chief's mess was a manual taped up to the hood, the recipe, the cleanup procedure, all of that. I walked in, I never had to ask a question after my initial training. And if I did ask a question, it was for clarification. Okay. So think about that in a business. If you could train someone based on a manual and then they go to their desk to start their job and you have a documented procedure, do they have to ask you a question? Once in a while, They will for clarification. But are you going to hear the same question over and over again? No, you're going to say, go check the manual. Go check the manual.
Yeah.
That's documented. Okay. Think about the time suck of training someone to come into your organization. And if
Right.
you had that piece of data to hand them to say, if you run into issues, check the manual first, and if it's unclear, come and ask me.
Mm-hmm.
How many hours is that going to save? How many distractions is that going to stop as you're bringing that person or that subcontractor on board?
Mm-hmm.
You tell me.
Oh, huge. Yeah. Yeah. My mind went to the days of being a director at Chick-fil-A. They had what's called POPs, and it's probably picture of preparation or process of preparation
Mm-hmm.
is probably what it stood for. I don't think they ever told us that. We just knew that they were stickers, and every quarter a new sticker would come in, and basically on the stainless you scrape the old sticker off, pull that sticker off, you wipe it all down and everything, and you put this new sticker, and it would be like, hey, this is our kale salad, and this is how it's prepared, and it just had a picture step by step, 1, 2, 3, 4, and you just put it on there to where, in a pinch, any director came over, they gloved up, and they were able to build this thing because they had a POP.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, like no one had to. I mean, like you saw the picture, you were able to put it together. And a lot of instruction manuals from all the toys that I've built from the days when my oldest son, who's 26, when he was a kid, and this exhaustive, words instruction manual to what they do today with a picture. They say way more. I mean, putting a dresser together today is super easier than it was, 35 years ago, because they just use words. Now they use the actual pictures that are in there, and they show like, this bolt goes through this washer to this nut in this spot.
Yeah, back in the Navy, we used to do what's called PMS, or preventative maintenance system. And we were working on equipment we never touched before, right? It's one of the reasons I like, YouTube so much. If I need to do something that I've never done before, I can watch a video. I know exactly how to do it. Well, the PMS system was pre-YouTube, and it was in writing, pictures of the parts, pictures of how to take it apart, step-by-step instructions to take it apart, and then step-by-step instructions to put it back together. So we would have these manuals, and it would be on a schedule, right? This needs to be PMS'd every 6 months, and every 6 months and pop up on our schedule. And hey, Ruthie, you got this to do today. You have to, we've got to swing the compass on the ship. So we're going to have to pull out of port and do a compass swing. So you need to get the CO and the chief executive officer to get a trip out to Long Island Sound, and we need to get the entire team set together to make sure the compass is working properly. So it was just all outlined. I mean, I didn't even have to think about it. I wake up, I'd open up my schedule, and I go, okay, it'd be right there. 3 weeks from today, we got to go out and swing the compass. And so we get things set up for the officers and get things out and get the ship out. It's a 500-foot ship, so there was a lot involved in taking it out to swing the compass. Make sure that the gyro compass, which is an electronic compass, is set and ready to roll, and that it's correct before we go swing the other compass, because we need the gyro to make sure the magnetic compass is working. So we knew every step along the way. Well, who would know that if it wasn't documented? How would you transfer that information? How would your business run if you ended up in the hospital tomorrow?
Right. Yeah, that's a hard question, because the answer is not fun to speak into.
It's not fun. It's like, what would happen?
Yeah. I mean, like, okay, I have to go to well, can I take my laptop with me to the to the hospital? Because you're right, I am the business.
You are the business. So how do we? So the question is, the core question is, how do I make this business a going concern? How do I make it survive me and continue operations on a daily basis if I'm eliminated from the picture?
Yes.
Okay. We talk a lot in my industry, and when you get up in the larger businesses, we start talking about business continuity planning. And
Hmm.
that whole really, that whole sentence is about the business continuing in the event of a disaster,
Hmm.
right? How does the business continue tomorrow if it gets hit by a tornado today?
Yeah.
Where's my
Right.
data? Where's my operations? Where's my sales team? What 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 do I need to do in the event of an emergency to keep it going? And
Hmm.
this is where, if you ask this to, I would say 80% of the small businesses and medium businesses out there could not continue if a disaster happened
Yeah.
because they have no plan beyond it.
Yeah. And that's why I said, I mean, it was such conviction that I felt when you're asking that question. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The invent and disasters are going to come.
Yes.
At different levels and stuff like that. And but a crisis is a crisis. And am I prepared for a 3-week crisis that the business has to run without me?
Mm-hmm.
Likely, I would venture to say that very few businesses are prepared to go an entire month, 30 days, without the one who's operating the business, especially if they don't have any documentation and the processes. I mean, like, how do I open the store? How do I who do I call for this vendor, and how do I approach them? How do I contact them, and so forth?
It's interesting, and I think it's a state of mind, is understanding that disasters will come, and I say it's a state of mind because I even think that way about my house. It's like,
Mm,
how will my house run in the event of a disaster? So I have an
mm,
automated backup generator sitting on my house. I have a reverse osmosis water system in my
mm.
house. It's like, okay, now I can run 30 days, on whether
Wow.
it's natural gas that's coming in the house, or a 100-pound propane tank can run that
Mm,
generator, and it's set up to run both ways so that my house can continue to have power, and my kids are safe and all of that stuff in the event of a disaster. To
mm.
me, a lot of people go, "Oh, you spend a lot of money on that big backup generator." I'm like, yeah. How many times have my neighbors been over at my house during a power outage? Right?
Yeah.
Because I'm the only guy in the area with, and
Mhm.
and one Christmas power went out, and it went out for 13 hours. There was a car that hit a telephone pole down the street, and there was this big fire and all this stuff, and it's Christmas time, and power was out, and backup generator comes on, and it's doing its thing, and we're watching TV. We've got internet. We're doing all that stuff, and my wife, not thinking about it. Remember, everything is out. The entire area is dark. She turns on the Christmas lights outside. Kind of like, we can't do that, honey. We can't do
You are a beacon of hope.
that. No, we're like, they're going to be pissed. That's just rubbing it in. But,
Yeah.
the next door neighbors have 2 little kids. Come on over,
Mm,
keep warm. But um, it's the same idea behind the business. It's like,
yeah.
when all the businesses are out around you, you can turn your Christmas lights on and say, hey, I'm still
What
in
a
operation.
yeah.
Okay.
What a great illustration for developing a 30-day business runs without me plan. I mean, like, what is that crisis plan, or crisis management plan? What is the management plan for your business running without you on auxiliary power for 30 days? And, like, for you, I mean, I had this vision of this whole dark street, and yet here's the Christmas lights on this one house. For all the other quote unquote businesses are shut down, but here's one running business as usual.
Right. And this goes back to the original discussion, scaling. Okay. This is part of that scaling equation, is having a business continuity plan. How's the business run without you? Because ultimately, at the end of the day, Once you start scaling and you've replicated yourself fully through multiple other people, and that disaster happens, that, Tracy goes to the hospital, or, got in a car accident or whatever, and the next day you have the peace of mind to know that your business is operating without you, that your income has not been cut because you got in an accident, and because you trust, and the vision, mission, and values are embodied in the people that you've brought on board, and your business continues. And that's the story. That's not only scaling the revenue, but scaling the process and the business so that it can run as a going concern without your involvement.
Man, what a powerful message, especially when I'll butcher the statistics. Some 8.5 million business owners are mom and pop. I mean, it's just them. And if they go down, like you said, in a crisis, so does their business, so does their revenue, so growing a team. And we talked about replicating yourself, and then having those documented, proven processes that those that are replicating you can continue to do at least 80% of the value that you would do, that you were in the business, and that'll have to be enough.
Yeah. I mean, how many businesses, so to bring this down to small business, because I'm talking, think about this, the most simple process, taking money. That is the most simple process in your business. Somewhat, you deliver a service, or or you're a restaurant. Let's even use restaurants, for example. And the internet goes down. How often does that happen?
Yeah.
You can't take credit cards.
Right.
What is your business continuity plan for this little simple thing? Is taking money. What's your business? So I own a business, and it's a restaurant. That's one of the first things I'm going to think about. Like, when all crap goes, and I can, maybe I put a power generation on the back so I can continue to cook food, because it's never about the gas. The gas doesn't shut down, so I need power. So I'm going to put a power backup generator on my restaurant, so that if when power goes out, it doesn't shut me down. Second thing, how am I going to take money? Well, you can still get the old pieces of paper to jam the credit card on. I'm going to have that backup so I can take credit cards when everything goes down. And I'm going to make sure I have enough cash reserves on hand, because I'm going to prefer taking cash when the power's out, so that I can make change for, let's say I'm going to assume worst case scenario, the power's out for 8 hours. I'm going to have enough cash to transact for the next 8 hours. Okay. So I'm going to have that in a safe in the restaurant. So now I've got backup power. I've got the ability to take money in all the ways that I was going to take it, even if the internet's down, and I can continue restaurant operations because of the backup power. Now, everything goes down. My Christmas lights are still on. All the restaurants around me, they're not doing crap, and I'm getting all their customers too.
Yeah. Powerful. No pun intended. But it's great thinking. And like, I mean, I wouldn't know that coming out of like what I'm putting into the business, the outcome is going to be, which helps me to dominate in my sector, because likely, how many do you think are actually thinking this term?
Nobody.
As far
very
as
few. I should not say nobody, because that's a disservice. But very few are. Very few get to that point. I mean, they don't want to spend the money in those particular places, but what they don't realize is, you take a Chick-fil-A, how much does 8 hours being down cost you?
Oh my goodness, absolutely.
In revenue.
I mean, you said it. When we went down, we had no internet, we had no way of taking credit card payments, we had no way of taking like the iPad orders and stuff like that. I was and all I knew to do is, because my time in before all the technology was introduced to restaurants, I gave everybody a pad of paper, and they were writing down the orders. And so we became a short order cafe type thing, where they're still going through the drive-through, but we were cash payments only because we didn't have the the swiper thing, but we were cash payments only, so we had to communicate that, and we were down for probably an hour and a half.
Yep.
But we were still able to, I mean, obviously just take cash payments, but that's all that we were able to accept. But we were still able to make some level of money and some income, and it just didn't go to like, I'm sorry, guys, we're closed for now.
Right. So here's the cost benefit analysis: $10,000 for a backup generator, right, for your business, or 8 hours down at $100,000 to $200,000 in revenue.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
To me, that's a no-brainer.
Yep.
Right. So it's but the business continuity, that's part of scaling. That's part of ensuring that it's a going concern and that it can run without you.
Man, that was super, super helpful. I mean, obviously I'm a business owner and I got some insights from what you were sharing today. If they're watching this right now, this is one that I would go back and review this one again, about going back and to think about what are we putting into the business that's going to, pardon the pun, generate the outcome that we want in the face of a crisis or replace us. I think the most powerful question is there was two for me: that how does the business continue without me? Powerful question. I've got to figure that out. I got to get that answer. And then how do I know that what I'm doing is the right way? Just because I've been doing it for years and it seems to be working, well, it ain't broke, don't fix it. But could it be improved?
Yeah. The power of documentation. It's not just about writing things down. It's about understanding your business, how it runs, and how it could run better.
Yeah.
So,
man,
we
powerful.
are out of time. We got to go.
Seems like we just started.
Yeah.
But I love it. Well, thank you so much for adding value to our viewers and to me today. Appreciate that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right. We'll see you next Thursday.
Look forward to it.